Did you know that Israel and Iran, two nations separated by over 1,000 miles, have never fought an official war, yet remain locked in one of the most dangerous rivalries on Earth? They don't share a border. They've never signed a peace treaty, no formal declaration of war. And yet, this tension quietly shapes global diplomacy, fuels shadow conflicts, and pushes the world closer to the edge of something far bigger, possibly even World War III. But this isn't just about politics or religion. It's deeper. It's a clash of identity, ideology, security, and survival. Israel and Iran are entangled in a silent war, one that flares hot, then cold, but never truly stops. Behind the headlines is a conflict decades in the making, with roots that go far beyond headlines and sound bites. In this video, we'll peel back the layers of a complex conflict. We'll explore why Israel views Iran as a threat to its very existence, and why Iran openly calls for the end of the Israeli state. We'll break down the religious, political, and strategic motives on both sides, clearly, calmly, and without bias. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a deep dive into one of the world's most dangerous power struggles. Whether you're trying to make sense of today's headlines, understand the deeper currents of Middle East politics, or simply want to see the full picture, you're in the right place. Let's start with how this rivalry truly began, and why it refuses to die. Believe it or not, before 1979, Iran and Israel were not enemies. In fact, they were quiet allies. Iran was one of the first Muslim-majority nations to recognize Israel after its founding in 1948. At the time, both countries saw strategic value in standing together. Israel was surrounded by hostile neighbors. Iran, under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was looking for partners to counter Arab nationalism. Behind the scenes, the partnership ran deep. Iran bought weapons from Israel. They worked together on oil deals. Intelligence was shared. Israeli businesses operated freely in Tehran, and Israeli diplomats were welcomed into the royal palace. It wasn't warm friendship, but it was smart, cold diplomacy. Each side knew the other could be useful. But beneath the surface, something was boiling. Religious leaders and revolutionaries in Iran saw the partnership with Israel as a betrayal of Islamic unity. Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories deepened resentment across the Muslim world. Yet, through all the tension, there was peace. No threats, no missiles, just cautious cooperation. They didn't love each other, but they understood each other. Then came 1979. The revolution changed everything. What was once a cold alliance turned into one of the most bitter rivalries. In 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini led a sweeping Islamic revolution that overthrew the Shah, transforming Iran from a secular monarchy into a theocratic Islamic republic almost overnight. This brought a dramatic shift in foreign policy, declaring Israel an illegitimate occupying power. The United States, Israel's strongest ally, became viewed as the chief adversary. Support for the Palestinian cause emerged as both a political stance and a religious imperative. Anti-Israel rhetoric permeated public discourse and religious gatherings. Iran severed diplomatic ties with Israel, expelled its diplomats, and firmly positioned itself against both Israel and the West. Why such hostility? To Iran's leaders, Israel represented everything they opposed: Western-backed colonialism, secularism, and occupation of Muslim lands. Supporting Palestine became central to Iran's Islamic identity. This wasn't just politics, it was theology mixed with resistance. Israel, in turn, saw the new Iran as unpredictable and dangerous. It lost a key regional ally and gained a fiercely ideological enemy. And more than that, Israel saw the Islamic Republic's growing support for armed groups as a direct threat to its existence. The stage was now set for a Cold War in the Middle East, with no signs of thawing. Israel and Iran, two nations locked in a complex rivalry. They've never fought an open war, but their conflict is real. Instead of battles, they engage through influence and alliances. Iran backs groups across the Middle East, from Lebanon to Gaza. These alliances are Tehran's strategy to counter Israel's presence. For Israel, these groups are major security threats. In response, Israel conducts air operations in Syria. This shadow conflict shapes the entire region's dynamics. It's a game of strategy, deterrence, and indirect warfare. Some call it resistance, others call it aggression, but one thing's clear: it's a dangerous strategic standoff with human lives at stake. Each time one of these proxy groups is targeted, tensions between Iran and Israel intensify. While both sides are careful to avoid full-scale war, for now, their silent conflict keeps escalating, move by move. It's like a high-stakes game of chess, where every move counts and the stakes are life and death. Very few issues concern Israel more deeply than a nuclear-armed Iran. For decades, Iran has developed nuclear technology, claiming it's for energy. But international red flags have raised serious concerns. Israel sees this as an urgent national priority. Iran insists on its right to peaceful nuclear power, like any sovereign nation. Yet, transparency issues and uranium enrichment raise alarms globally. Israel has historically taken preemptive action against nuclear threats. In the past, it targeted reactors to prevent escalation. Israeli leaders are clear: they will act to stop Iran from crossing that nuclear threshold. In 2015, Iran struck a deal with world powers to limit its nuclear ambitions in exchange for lifting sanctions. But when the US pulled out in 2018, tensions flared up once more. Since then, Iran has ramped up its nuclear enrichment activities. What keeps Israel awake at night isn't just the technology itself, but the potential for it to spread. The fear that nuclear capabilities could fall into the hands of aligned groups in the region adds urgency to the situation. For Israel, this isn't merely a strategic concern, it's about safeguarding their future. This conflict isn't always loud or visible. In many ways, it's a quiet struggle happening behind the scenes, through technology, secret operations, and digital tools. Israel has been connected to secret actions that slowed down Iran's nuclear progress, including advanced software that caused serious delays. These efforts didn't involve open battles, but they made a big impact. In return, Iran has used the internet and computer systems to try to interrupt services in Israel, targeting things like electricity and business systems. These actions are done carefully, to cause trouble without starting a direct fight. Most people never hear about these things, but the effects are real: power cuts, water issues, or broken systems. And for everyday people, the problems show up without warning. This is what modern conflict looks like, not always on the battlefield, but in quiet disruptions that affect real lives. Syria has quietly become a dangerous pressure point in the Iran-Israel rivalry. During the civil war, Iran supported Assad with advisors and equipment. Israel has conducted air operations to stop Iran's military foothold. Why does this matter? Iran aims to create a land corridor from Tehran to the Mediterranean connecting to Hezbollah. For Israel, this is a nightmare scenario. Israel's goal is to prevent that corridor from becoming a reality. Iranian military presence in Syria threatens Israeli territory, making strategic depth impossible. Syria has become a high-stakes chessboard. Nations are active, but rarely acknowledge their moves. Headlines don't always capture it, but actions here are shaping the balance of power in the Middle East. This quiet escalation reflects a larger regional contest. It's not just between two countries, but competing visions for the future of the Middle East. In 2020, a major shift took place in the Middle East. Israel established formal diplomatic ties with several Arab nations, including the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan through the Abraham Accords. For Israel, it was a powerful symbol of regional acceptance. For Iran, it signaled a dramatic shift in old alliances. Historically, Iran relied on a shared sense of solidarity against Israel. But with Arab states opening embassies and boosting ties with Israel, that dynamic has changed. These new partnerships are motivated by shared concerns over Iran's influence. The result? Iran is now more politically isolated, while Israel gains legitimacy and leverage. What was once a polarized region is now redrawing its lines of diplomacy. These aren't just handshake deals. They reflect deeper cooperation, military coordination, intelligence sharing, and economic projects that are actively shaping the future of the Middle East. For Iran, that changing landscape feels increasingly complex and constrained. For everyday citizens across the region, this realignment brings both hope and hesitation. Some welcome the chance for peace, tourism, and economic growth, while others feel conflicted by the fast-changing allegiances. The Abraham Accords didn't just reshape political boundaries, they stirred cultural and generational debates about identity, loyalty, and the future of the Middle East. As governments chart a new course, many people are still catching up with what it means. Ideology fuels this conflict just as much as strategy. Iran's leadership frames its mission as a defense of Muslim interests, especially supporting Palestinians. To them, Israel represents foreign intervention and a long-standing grievance over land and sovereignty. On the other hand, Israel sees itself as the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, rebuilt after centuries of persecution. For many Israelis, protecting their state isn't just politics, it's a matter of identity and survival. This deep-rooted belief on both sides makes compromise extraordinarily difficult. Iran views resistance as a moral obligation, while Israel sees national defense as a historic right. When politics are driven by belief systems, conflicts become deeply personal and peace remains a complex, distant goal. These opposing narratives shape everything from foreign policy to public opinion. Reinforced through education, media, and national memory, they create a divide. Generations grow up seeing the other as not just a rival, but an existential threat. This mindset affects leaders and everyday people alike. It makes reconciliation harder and suspicion more instinctive. In this climate, diplomatic efforts are met with skepticism. Every action is viewed through the lens of history and ideology. On June 13, 2025, a major turning point occurred in the already fragile relationship between Israel and Iran. Israel carried out a large-scale operation aimed at disrupting activities it viewed as a potential threat. Hours later, Iran issued a strong response, resulting in heightened tension and alerts across both nations. This was not a quiet moment behind the scenes. It was dramatic, highly visible, and impacted thousands of civilians who were urged to seek safety. Air raid sirens were heard, and the world paused to see what would unfold next. Global leaders quickly called for calm, urging restraint on all sides. Both governments stood firm, Israel citing national security, while Iran framed it as a matter of sovereignty and defense. The situation remains fluid, but one thing is clear: the consequences of each decision resonate far beyond the region itself.